At Dow Janes, we talk a lot about how we tend to inherit our relationship with money from the people who raised us. Whether we like it or not, our upbringing and our backgrounds influence the way we think about money as adults. And whether consciously or unconsciously, the people who raised us teach us the most about what we know about money, or what we don't know about money. And depending on how committed your parents were to teaching you about personal finance, you may or may not have learned much. After all, they probably weren't taught these skills by anyone either. And they're not to blame. That's not what this is about. This is a bigger problem that no one really learns about personal finance. So instead, for any parents out there, this video is about how you can teach your kids important lessons about money. I'm Britt Baker, co-founder of Dow Janes and a financial coach for thousands of women in our flagship program, The $1 Million Year. I just got back from visiting my family in Idaho where I grew up, and I asked my parents what it was they did to instill such strong money habits in me. In all of our Dow Janes content, I've shared that I started investing at age 8, but I recently found my investment journal, and the first entry is from December 25th, 1995, when I was 7. So I actually started investing at the age of 7, which I will tell you more about as we go. All right. Before I get into that, I want to tell you about the two main things my parents taught me about money in two main ways. The first thing my parents taught us was how to value a dollar. So growing up, my dad he's a Virgo and he's great at keeping notes. And so he wrote here what our allowance was each year. So from age 7 to 11, I got $2 a week. And then it went up $1. So when I was 11, I got $3 a week. When I was 12, I got $5 a week. And then 7, and then 9 at age 15. So it increased as we went, but growing up, that was a small amount of money. So it was $2 a week for doing things like helping out in the garden, unloading the dishwasher, keeping our rooms clean. And we learned that we had to work to earn money. So we were only gonna get that $2 if we did our chores. And if we wanted to get anything, usually cost more than $2. So we had to save up for multiple weeks at a time. So it really taught us the value of money. Like if you want something, it costs money and you had to work for that. The other really great things my parents did to teach us this lesson was that if we wanted something that was superfluous, it was just a toy or a game or something, they would say to us, we'll get that for you, but you have to pay half. And if we were willing to put up half of the money for the toy or the Beanie Baby or the game, they would pay for the other half. And it really taught us to determine if we wanted that thing. So it taught us both, did we want to put our own money into it? We're discerning, was this something that was really worth it? Or did we just want it because someone else was buying it from us? So it taught us how to make spending and money decisions based on our own money, our own dollars from a very young age. The second lesson my parents taught us was the power of compound interest, which is one of the key principles of investing. And to do this, my dad invited us to bank at the Daddy Bank. And just a quick note, this could very easily be called the Mommy Bank. It was just my dad, the Virgo, who kept track of the finances in our house. And this is actually my Daddy Bank notebook. I found this while I was home. And in it, so on the first page, it says Daddy Bank Journal. Deposits in the Daddy Bank will earn interest at a rate of 5% per month. In parentheses, 5 cents for each whole dollar for each full month until age 10 years old. So it was a bank just like a normal bank, and I would enter my deposits on one side and my withdrawals on the other. And then whenever I did that, literally by handing money to my dad or getting money from my dad, I would then enter it into the book and then do the math to calculate my new balance. So as I said, I started at age 7, this entry from October 25th, 1995, with a deposit of $113.50. So I started collecting interest, and the trick of the interest was that we had to do the math ourselves. So my brother and I would take the total amount of the balance, we'd multiply it by 5%, and that would be the interest payment for the month. So in November, I got an interest payment of $5.75, which was more than my allowance for the week. So I quickly learned the value of interest and of compounding interest because 1 year later, I had grown my balance to $370 just by calculating my interest payments each month and depositing my allowance money also each month. I was pretty diligent about saving. There's even an entry where I deposited 96 cents into the Daddy Bank. And I'll just give you a quick view of what this looks like. So I noticed, as I was saying, that as my bank balance increased, my interest payments increased as well. So when I started in 1995, I made $5 in interest payments. And then 2 years later, in November of 1997, I have an entry of earning $43.80 in interest payments for the month of October. So in a single month, I made $43 in interest, which was way more than my allowance at the time. And this gave me a pretty strong incentive to save and invest my money. I'm sure my parents were thrilled that this little game worked out, and it taught me such strong money habits at a pretty young age. So try it yourself. Feel free to set your own rules. Choose what interest rate you want to set, choose your own criteria for an allowance, and let your kids learn through hands-on experience what it means to let their money grow through investing. How you decide to teach your kids about money is up to you. I'm sure every parent will adapt their own style to what works for their family. However, just remember that how you treat money and how you talk about money as a family, it's being passed on to your children whether you like it or not. We all inherit money stories and relationships from the people who raised us, so why not pass on some good lessons? And I'd love to know, what did your parents teach you about money? How did you learn about money as a kid, or what tricks have you developed to teach your kids about the value of a dollar? Leave a comment below the video and let me know. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.